Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole, and I'm from the Institute of Banking and Finance, and I'm delighted that you're able to join us this afternoon for this masterclass, jointly organized with Flame Center. We have with us today Wendy Tan from Flame Center, and also author of Wholeness in a Disruptive World. Wendy has won Thought Leadership Awards and is a regular contributor to various journals and magazines. She's also the managing partner of Flame Center, a strategy and people development practice based in Singapore and serving the Asia Pacific region. An avid adventurer, she's recently completed her doctoral research on lifelong learning. We also have with us Ian Wong, Managing Director and Head of Group International Management at UOB. In this role, Ian has management oversight of the performance and governance of UOB's overseas banking subsidiaries and branches. In addition, he's also responsible for the group's foreign direct investment advisory, as well as global capital and venture management businesses. Ian currently sits on the group's management committee. So before we begin today's session, allow me to do a very quick intro on IBF and the resources we have for finance professionals. IBF was established by MAS in 1974 as a training provider to provide functional training for the financial industry. Since then, our role has evolved into one of standard setting for financial skills, services sector skills, and competencies, and to cover career advisory and job matching functions for the financial services sector. We've also appointed as the job development partner for the financial services sector by the Jobs Development Council and oversee both skills and jobs development in Singapore. Here's a quick look at our services and how we support the industry across training, recruitment, and workforce transformation. You can find out more about these services via the IBF website. The enhanced course fee subsidies, which are part of MAS, the support package to encourage companies to send their employees for training and upskilling, will continue till the end of the year. Training cost subsidies under IBF STS will be at 50% for those under the age of 40 and 70% for those above the age group. Training cost subsidies for IBF STS programs will be at 30% for those under the age of 40, while remaining at 70% for those above the age group. This applies to all courses that commence from 1st January this year. You can also find a list of eligible training programs on the IBF Program Finder on our website. In addition, you may check out free webinars such as this, offering non-course CPD hours to support the training needs of the industry. And that concludes my short intro. I'm going to hand the time over now to Wendy. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Nicole, and a warm welcome to all of you for joining us here today. Yeah, and I'm really happy that you've chosen to spend the hour with us, and your time is very precious. I know that this is set in a webinar format, so we can't see you, but we'd love to hear from you in the chat. Can I please invite everybody to just put down your name and your role into the chat, please? And a bonus will be what led you to want to spend the hour with us. Right, can I just invite everybody, please, to just put in your name and role and maybe what led you to join us in today's webinar? Yes, thank you so much, Nicole, for being the first one. Yeah, we'd love to hear from more of you, what led you to be here today, right? And to accompany your learning session for today, I'd like to invite you to also to download this learning map. You can see the QR code on my screen over here. So this is a learning map as a complement to your learning today. And thank you so much, David, for joining us and introducing who you are as well. That's really helpful because, you know, in a world where we are wanting to connect with one another, the best way we can do that in today's session is through the chat group, right? And we'd love to hear from more of you. Okay, and so this is the feel free to download this learning map so that it can accompany you. Thank you so much, Chu Chong from BNP, right? Product specialist, right? It sounds like many of you, at least for David and Chu Chong, you're from technical roles. Yeah, and that's great to hear from you. I really appreciate your responses, and let's keep more of them coming through. Okay, So, and I'm also very happy to have Ian join us in today's session because, you know, when both Ian and we were speaking, or I was, you know, speaking about the ideas of wholeness, and I hear Ian talk about his ideas around purpose, happiness, and dedication. And, you know, that led me to think that there's a lot of synergies in these ideas. So instead of just hearing from me, like the author, right, why not also hear from a practitioner? Yes, so Ian, hi. And Ian, you might want to just also put your chat into the into everybody, because you put it into host and panelists, so only we can hear you. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do it later.
Thank you. So hopefully that this can be a more of an interaction between, you know, Ian and I, as well as both of us with all of you on the chat group, right? And thank you, Andy, for putting in the link as well, if you want to use the link for the for the learning map. Okay, so I love to jump in now. Thank you so much, Albert, for responding to us, freelance consultant looking into sustainability. Thank you, Albert. Sustainability is such an important topic in today's world, right? And Emmeline, thank you, Emmeline, for sharing as well from ARM. And Emmeline, you also just put it into host and panelists. So just maybe you want to share with everybody, yeah. But we're left with thank you for sharing with all of us. And there you are, and there you go, Ian, for sharing your. You want to say a few words before we start? Ian?
Sure. Hi. My name is Ian Wong. I'm head of international at UOB. I'm very passionate about the people's agenda as well. Over and above my business responsibilities, which is to drive the performance of our international entities outside Singapore. So really glad to be here. Back to you, Wendy.
All right, thank you so much, Ian. And we have Henry as well, product specialist. Thank you. So all of you are in very technical roles, and I have a friend who is a technical specialist as well in a bank, and he tells me about all the the challenges and all the new instruments, the new products that are coming through. Yeah, so very glad to be working with you. And I want to share today's session. Right, it's how do we achieve and thrive in these non-BAU times, right? Well, wholeheartedness is the antidote to exhaustion. That's what David White says. David White is a poet, right? And I want to share a snapshot of these ideas based on my book, Wholeness in a Destructive World, and our new approved IBS STS workshop, Whole Person, Whole Leader. Right, with our short time, we can't go in depth, but I like to give you some quick tips on how we can achieve and thrive in today's non-BAU times, right? And so this topic on wholeness is really a foundation for our lives, for us to do good work. And these ideas, right, came to me from a life-changing experience. So a near death about 12 years ago led me to think deeply into my life. So then I was a management consultant and a mother of 3 young children, Pete, Finn, and Sophie, right? So I was like trying to do it all, managing my own business, taking care of the 3 kids, and, trying to just manage everything. And this near-death experience changed the way I live, I work, and also how I want to use my remaining time. And this is where the journey began, right? So 12 years ago, I've been vomiting my guts out. And my husband then decides to send me to the hospital at 3 a.m. in the morning. So I was quickly upgraded from normal ward to high dependency ward, and then to the intensive care ward. And believe me, this is not the kind of upgrade that you want. Yeah, and so there's Dr. Linda. She's this prim and proper lady without a single strand of hair out of place, right? And then she said to me, Wendy, you look better than you really are. If you come in 3 days later, you'll probably be dead. And when I heard that, I was shocked. And in my mind, the first thing that came to my mind is, I still have a short workshop in Shanghai next week. I can't die yet. There's so many things left I need to do. So my mind was in that automatic mode, right? Work, do, right? And that message did not sink in that moment. And until kind of like a while later when I slumped back, and I'm like this, lying on the hospital bed with the ugly blue gown and the hair looking like Einstein. And then I realized that the world that I know is going to change, right? And I suddenly realized that the world that I know is become very uncertain, right? So, I knew that there were faults in my life, but in that moment, right, that faults became full-blown fragmentation. Yeah, and this fragmentation that I experienced was triggered by my admission to the ICU. And now if you look at the world around us, right, it seems like the world was in ICU the last several years, right, starting from the COVID and then the recovery from COVID. So these are some data points. In 2022, 19 to 38% of employees globally reported reported burnout. And 28 to 43% of employees report feeling distress, right? And these numbers have been increasing on the upward trend. And you probably can relate to that. I mean, you don't really need data to tell you, but you can sense that from the COVID years right onwards, the level of stress has been increasing. What about in Singapore? So 86% of Singapore respondents in this survey, right, report feeling stressed, right? And 15% struggle to cope with stress. So if we look at this data, right, this index, the light blue boxes refer to the kind of the quality of overall well-being. So you see that compared to APAC, Asia Pacific, and the global, Singapore respondents actually score lower, right, for the overall well-being as well as at the work level. Yeah, so I mean, this is really not new, but it has got huge impact. 1/3 change jobs, 1/3 are looking for new jobs in the coming year, and more than 50% are happy to take a less well-paying job for more time, right? For more time to ourselves, to our family. Yeah, so this is something that we have experienced, and it's not just about looking at the data, but it is really the human impact. It's the impact to ourselves, our lives, and our family and our team, right? So maybe let's also hear from Ian's perspective. What is your experience in terms of the cause, right? The causes and the cost of the lack of wholeness.
Yeah, can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Wendy, you can. Okay. Well, first of all, good afternoon to all the executives who have just dialed in, as well as business leaders. I think at the end of the day, well, let me put it this way. I really wanted to be here to share some of my personal experience, because all of us in the same industry, I do believe I know the kind of stress and concerns that some of you may be going through. So I thought it would be good for me to be here to share a bit of that, so that you know that you're not alone. So that's number one, right? So there are various causes of exhaustion. Okay. I think to me, the first one is when you're really, really passionate about something and you're very, very into it, right? And that's a good thing, right? In a way, right? It's a kind of a good a reason, right? That led you to it. But let me explain a bit later. The other cause of exhaustion, obviously, is something that is a lot more than you can really handle. I mean, at the end of the day, we are limited by our resources, our time, right? So the question is, are we doing more than we are able to cope? And another reason could be, maybe whatever we're doing is not really our area of expertise or passion. So it becomes sometimes as a drag as well. So then the question is, how do you pivot out from that? And one of the things that I have gone through exhaustion is when I moved to a new role 11, 12 years ago, right? I'll talk a bit about that a bit later. And of course, last but not least, never undermine the challenges that you may be facing at home as well, right? So all these are the potential causes of exhaustion, okay? The reason why I want to highlight that is sometimes it's good for us to just take a step back and really reflect on what is really causing the anxiety and the exhaustion, right? And from there, then you are able to develop a roadmap to overcome it, right? I remember 11, 12 years ago when I was moving to a new role in a new organization. For some reason, all these causes kind of come into play. And as a result, I was really working overdrive and really on the verge of exhaustion until one fine day in the morning, I woke up, I was walking to the toilet, I just literally just collapsed, right? And that's where I really took a step back and re-examine, how I should re-navigate myself going forward. And the best way to do it is to have the clarity of what went wrong, right? And then accordingly, once you're clear on that, then it's easier to have the intervention. Otherwise, you will be sometimes be clouded with too many so-called thoughts on what actually is the main reason. So my suggestion is to have the clarity of thought. Back to you, Wendy.
Thank you so much. Usually I would say, give Ian an applause, or to say thank you, appreciate your sharing in this group. And because we're sharing this not because it's, we want to impress upon you, but really to just to show and tell everybody that, we're not alone. And this whole sense of exhaustion, the sense of stress, the sense of burnout, is something that is real, and it's something that is probably experienced by many of us at some point in our career. And what we want to do, right, is really to find ways to manage this better, right? And in order to do that, as Ian says, right, is to gain clarity. Yeah, so to help us gain clarity, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like to invite all of you to go on to Menti, just to hear from us, right? What are the top 3 challenges that you face? What are you up against, right? Can everybody just go onto Menti, just scan this, and there is also a link on the chat, right? On the chat, there's also a link. Feel free to click on this, and then let's see. Okay, I'm going to share screen to see what are some of the top 3 challenges that you face. Okay. Yes, thank you. Right, we have heavy workload. Yes, many of you are responding. Yes, yeah, just keep your responses coming. Click onto the link in the chat if there's no more QR code for now. Yeah, but we want to see what are the key challenges, because this is not just about me, right? About ourselves in our own situation, but everybody else, right? Because as we are looking at it from our personal perspectives, have we also looked at it from our team's perspective? What are the others in our team up against? What's happening in their world, right? In terms of their work, in terms of their personal life, just in terms of who they are, their entire well-being. Yeah, and thank you so much. We have the responses coming in, right? And we see that about 1/4 is about uncertainty about the future, right? And if anybody wants to just put it into the chat, okay, I know I might be pushing it in a webinar style thing, but please share with us anything onto the chat. What makes you say that it's uncertainty about the future? Right, and then we have on par is a heavy workload. Indeed, there's always a lot to do. I tell my team that work will never stop. There will always be a lot to do, right? And work-life balance, yes, indeed, right? Because it's not just about work, but it's also our life. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing these outputs. And what we'll do in today's session, right, is to address these 3 specific issues: uncertainty, work-life balance, and heavy workload. Okay, so with that, let me stop screen share. I have 2 monitors in front of me, so when you see me not looking at you, it's because I am focusing on this. Okay, so from here, okay, you should be able, I think, Nico, have I stopped screen share? Is that working okay?
Hold on, let me just sort this out.
Okay, so the spotlight, yes. Okay, I think I see myself. That's good. Okay, so acknowledging these stressors is the first step to the solution, right? And then we want to find a way out. So how do we find a way out? So in my own journey, after I was, thankfully, I was discharged from the hospital after about 11 days on New Year's Eve, right? And then I felt like, wow, I've got the brand new life ahead, the brand new year. And, you know, from somebody who's very active, I could only walk a few steps, pause and breathe, right? Because there's just no energy. There's just no energy. And the little bit of energy could only sustain me for a short time. So unable to run and do the usual exercise, I can only do Tai Chi, right? And as I was doing Tai Chi, I thought, hey, you mean this is also exercise? Tai Chi is also, because I don't perspire, you know, my heart rate barely even goes up, right? But that's all I can do. So one day, as you know, as the last ounce of energy left me, I went to practice Tai Chi at the playground downstairs, right? So at that point, the wind was blowing, the kids were playing, laughing, and there I was, you know, just breathing. And then a thought popped into my head, you know, that perhaps the opposite of fragmentation, the fragmentation that I experienced, perhaps this opposite could be actually wholeness, right? And so the opposite of being broken is to be whole, right? So that was a thought in my head. And then I decided to find a way out of this. So I went on to interview professionals, business leaders. How do they stay whole? How do they, you know, with all that stress, the uncertainty about the future, the heavy workload, you know, having to deal with work and family, how can we continue to stay whole? So that was a journey that I took to find the answers to these questions, right? And then I decided, okay, as I gathered my energy, I decided to sign up for the marathon, right? From having little energy to trying to gain my health back, I signed up for the marathon. And because I run so slowly, so I've got many hours to reflect, right? And then it came to still some clarity on what is wholeness, right? What exactly is wholeness? It's such a nebulous idea, right? Everybody has got their own definition, like wholeheartedness, wholesomeness, holistic, right? So what exactly is wholeness? And how is it an approach for sustained performance in the long haul, right? Not like, you know, when we collapse, but it's performance in the long haul. And I came to these ABC pathways towards wholeness: anchoring, balancing, and clearing. So in today's session, I want to share with you these key ideas on wholeness. Yeah, and during so in the workshop, we will have diagnostic tools to help people to measure, to help people gain some self-awareness on where you are in terms of wholeness, in terms of anchoring, balancing, and clearing. Okay, so let's jump into this, okay? So having thought about, you know, look, after all the interviews, looking at the Eastern and the Western philosophies on wholeness, right? And so the how we define wholeness is a sense of balance and completeness within ourselves and the world around us. So wholeness is to be whole in who we are, right? Who we are as a person, wholeness in the way we think, to expand our thinking, and also wholeness in the here and now, in the present moment. So this is an idea around wholeness, right? So how do we achieve this sense of wholeness? Okay, and there are three. I want to invite everybody to put into the chat. Pick up 3 words that represent wholeness into you. Looking at this word cloud, right? Looking at this word cloud. Pick up 3 words that represent wholeness and type it into this chat. Okay, does anybody, yeah, as we wait to hear from you, what are the words? Okay, thank you, Nicole. Vitality, fulfillment, and kindness. Right, this is great, awesome. Yeah, as we get more inputs from others, maybe we can also hear from Ian. Yeah, what do these ideas around wholeness and your own philosophy, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I was about to type in, but since you asked me to answer, I'll just say it outright. I think the way I think about wholeness is, perhaps I can ask everybody here a question, right? How do you want to live your life, right? to me, it's a very deliberate choice. A decision that I've made is to be happy and fulfilled, right? I cover 18 countries outside Singapore, and every time when I go to the countries and engage my talents and my leaders, that's always the first question I ask. Okay, do you want to be happy, right? And a lot of times, in fact, most of the time, if not all the times, all the leaders and talents will just put up their hand. Yes, we want to be happy, right? And then the next question I ask them is it easy to achieve happiness and fulfillment, right? So most of them will kind of look at each other and kind of gesture that it's something that they want, but it's not something that's easy, right? So bearing in mind that if truly happiness and fulfillment is something that you are pursuing, right, and it's a decision you have made, right, then that clarity of intentions needs to translate into what I call to actions, right? And I think Wendy did mention about some of the basic so-called tenets of how she thinks about wholeness, right? For me, it is really about having the clarity of your purpose at work, for yourself, and for your loved ones, right? And the way to think about that is to really figure out who truly matters, what business outcomes truly matter, okay? And when certain colleagues make a certain remark, are they an important stakeholder for you? Or are they just noise, right? So focusing on who are the true key stakeholders, focusing on the people who truly matter for your well-being and your progress in life, and focusing on things that truly matter, the silk roads, the pathways for you that leads you to what success looks like. To me, these are the things that we should be thinking about and focusing more. And I think in so doing, then I think you are probably one step closer to wholeness. Wendy, back to you.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah. And we have a question, Ian, about how do you maintain your wholeness with a senior management MD role at UOB and yet at the same time be a master coach? Yeah, I think this question is directed to you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I think, first of all, maybe I can share a story. I think during the pandemic that just literally we just left the pandemic, right? I was quite deliberate on how we can emerge stronger and never waste a crisis, right? And so guess what? At the time, we all have a lot of time to think about this, right, and reflect on what's next steps. And one of the things that I did was I engaged on Zoom calls quite a fair bit with my international colleagues because that's my role, right? And I realized that some of them are not handling it well, even through the Zoom, right? I mean, I can't see you guys because it's a seminar format, but in my engagement with the colleagues, okay, it was more interactive. I can see their faces, their expressions, the kind of questions they ask, right? And I was very concerned, and I decided that we need to come out of this stronger, okay? And I decided to go on and embark on a year-long master coach course, okay? Whereby I felt that was a great intervention for us to show care as leaders, right? Build trust with our employees, and more importantly, enable our colleagues to grow to their fullest potential through this master coaching intervention. So I decided to go on that course, and it was an eye-opener for me. I mean, I've always been a people-centric person, but I must say that a lot of things that I've done in the past may be the right things from my reality, but not necessarily helping them as holistically as possible in their reality, right? So I did that course. I started if you guys are connected to me on LinkedIn, you will see that a lot of my narrative and storytelling and sharing are really how I can help enable UOB to build a strong and nurturing mentoring and coaching culture internationally, especially, right? So that, as I mentioned, we can show care, build trust, and enable all our colleagues, right, to be the best they the best they can. In today's new BAU, I think Wendy calls it the non-BAU times. I call it slightly differently. I call it the new BAU, which is business as unusual, right? So the mindset, the mental pivot, okay, becomes so important. That if we accept that life going forward, work going forward is going to be business as unusual. Okay, so when curveballs come your way, you're more than able to address these challenges and emerge stronger. Wendy, I hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you
Right.
so much. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for the anonymous attendee who put their questions into the Q&A box. And feel free to, put your questions in there because we want this hour to be helpful for you. Right. And we have people from on the chat, right? Ivan, Andy, Jinson, and Nicole talk about, we talk about care, Ian, right? The care, the love, the meaning, balance, peace, feeling complete, having a sense of fulfillment. These are all what we want, what we aspire for ourselves and for our people, right? So how do we get there? How do we get there? So, in this journey, right, I looked at it and after thinking about it, I came up with these 3 ideas. It's really as simple as ABC, right? Anchoring, balancing, and clearing. And to this idea that you spoke about, anchoring, right? What are we anchored to? Ian, just now you made reference to, is it noise or is it really important? Is that what really matters? And I think that speaks to the whole idea about anchoring. What are we anchored to? So if I ask all of you here, what helps a tree grow tall and strong? Right? What helps a tree grow tall and strong? Right? This is to test if you guys are paying attention. And we can see it on the chat coming or not. Right. So in order for a tree to grow tall and strong, right? Thank you, Jinson. Thank you. Yes. And thank you, Ivan. Big, strong, deep roots. Yes, the roots. Thank you. Thank you, Andy, as well. Right. It is indeed the roots, right? Because if we are only rooted shallowly to, all the things, sunshine, that's right. Thank you, Yang Chi. Right. If we're only rooted shallowly, when the wind blows, the tree will just be uprooted. But it is the depth, it is the broadness, the breadth of our roots that determine how strong we are, right? Because what you see on the external is only the surface, right? But it's what is within ourselves. So in the same way, if we want to develop ourselves, our people towards wholeness, it's the insight that matters. So what is the insight? What is it that helps us root ourselves to what truly matters? Yeah, so there are questions here when I interviewed many people, leaders, right? They talk about values, what truly matters to you. Ian talks about purpose, what's important and meaningful, right? And responsibility. Sometimes we draw strength from, it's not just caring about ourselves, but caring about the wider people, our family, right? There is a gentleman, he says that, I want to be the best father that I can be to my daughter. And that's what helps, that's what motivates him to be his best, right? So beyond ourselves, to look at our team, our family. And identity. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you as an individual, right? Beyond your job titles, beyond how you look, right? Beyond your family roles, who are you? Right. And so if you like, there is, again, if for some of you who are coming late, right, feel free to download this learning map with some of these questions here to guide you. And we all have our journey, and don't worry if we do not have the answers to these questions, because most of us are busy working, and we don't really have time to pause. And even when we pause, it's a bit hard to come up with these answers. So in our whole person, whole leader workshop, we use powerful questions and a powerful process to help people derive their own answers to these questions. But while we have Ian here with us, let's hear from Ian, your own journey to find your sense of purpose.
So again, I've always been a people-centric leader, and for actually very simple reasons. Number one, individually we only have 24 hours, and I need 8 hours of sleep. So and I strongly, being in the finance industry, we believe in the concept of good leverage, right? And when I talk about good leverage, means if you are able to enable your colleagues and your one downs to be the best that they can be, can you imagine the multiplier effect that you can leverage on, okay, for the organization's purpose, right? So I think that's something that I will encourage all leaders to think about it, right? Do not manage just by KPIs. KPIs are important, but I think we should also lead and inspire our team members, right, to think about things that may not be normally thought of. Let me give you an example. Right? During the pandemic, I saw this Bloomberg headline whereby 9 million jobs will be lost across ASEAN because of the pandemic. So I put my team together and we started brainstorming. How can a bank like UOB be able to be helpful in this problem statement? And we came up with this really audacious big goal, which is to enable the creation of 1 million jobs across ASEAN through our Foreign Direct Investments Advisory Unit. And when we came up with the goal, I think some of the colleagues were actually quite dumbfounded. They're saying that, boss, what's this got to do with our KPIs? And how is it going to help the bank, right? So the way we thought about it is, if we truly believe in this goal, which can really help to solve one of society's big problem during pandemic, we are more deliberate and likely and focused, right, to build ecosystem partnerships with organizations that can help us to achieve this goal. So through that, we were able to bring sustainable investments into Southeast Asia, okay? And when we bring these companies to invest in Southeast Asia, they are more likely to bank with us for their wholesale banking needs, corporate banking needs, commercial banking needs. That's number one. So KPI number one, tick, okay? Number two, these companies, when they come into ASEAN, they will be employing a lot of people, right, to grow. And we can in turn offer our personal digital banking solutions to the employees of these investments that come in. And there we go, we are able to then increase our engagement and our onboarding of consumer banking clients through the digital banking capability. And third, when we bring in the investments into Southeast Asia, these companies will need to create new value and supply chains, which is they will need more suppliers, and they also need more distributors and value chain partners. And this in turn will offer business opportunities to the SMEs that we bank with or that we have around the region, right? Creating more business opportunities and in turn create more job opportunities as they grow, right? And in turn hire more meaningful jobs. I mean, creating more meaningful jobs. And because this narrative resonates with a lot of business leaders and our business partners, we were able to garner some of their private banking requirements because they really resonate with that cause, and trust was built. So they actually decided to put in some of their personal money with the bank. So from a very simple goal that is aligned to our bank's purpose of enabling the future of ASEAN. We are not only able to meet our financial KPIs, but as one of my colleagues say, it feels like we are doing CSR every single day. So when we have the alignment of a bigger purpose to the roles and responsibilities of our people, I can tell you the impact is a lot different because people become more purposeful, they are more deliberate, okay, and they are more focused in execution as well. So, and of course, as a result of that, they are more motivated along the way. So something that I feel very passionate about, and I would encourage all leaders here, okay, to also embark on a journey.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this great story. And actually, this is this idea, right? It's like everybody can be a change maker in the system, right? And because of one person's sense of purpose and then enrolling others in that process so that it becomes a bigger momentum to involve the team to the larger organization, right? But the trigger, the ignition is in that one person. So that's why I also want to encourage everybody to get some clarity because it is really starting from all of us here. What are our values, our purpose? What do we feel? What do we choose to be responsible to? And who are we? Right. So this is something that, we through the process, through the questions in the workshop, that we also help you to find your answers so that you can be a multiplier effect, right? Through the story like that Ian has shared. And with this sense of purpose, right, we get clarity about who we are. And sometimes, there is a question here about how do we then deal with the strong winds figuratively, right? And this is where, once we're clear with our anchor, then we need to expand the way we think, right? Balance. So I want to share an example, and this example is a very common example, but it has implications to how we think, right? So also one of the challenges that you talked about is the work-life balance, right? So when we think about the word balance, right, we often think like a weighing scale. When one goes up, the other one must come down. If I want to focus on my family, then my career will suffer. In the same way, right, in the question that you have, do we keep to our values, right? Or do we manage the strong winds? So this whole idea about balance is this, that we think that, it's either one or the other. The other way that we commonly think about balance is that, it's a little bit of both, right? It's 50-50 compromise. Can I invite all of you to do a little experiment, right? Can I invite you to put your hands to your chest, right? And then you push 50-50 hands to your chest like this, right? And push 50-50 on both right and left. Yeah. So Ian, how do you feel when you push 50-50 with a lot of force?
Balance, I feel very balanced.
I feel very balanced. Do you feel effortful? Right. You probably feel like when you push 50-50, right, it's very effortful, right? But in this, right, it's also in some ways a little bit of a stalemate because you don't really have movement, you don't really have flow. It's just pushing against each other. So in the same way, right, this idea is we try to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. If we're at work, we think about family. At family time, we think about work. There's a little bit of both, right? But honestly, I mean, who wants a little bit of family and a little bit of career? Right? Probably, I mean, for most of us, we want 100 of family and 100 of career, right? It's not just because it's not whole. It's not about trying to make a compromise, but really, how can we have that whole life? So an idea that I want to offer to you, this whole idea about balancing, right, is that balancing is not, when one is up, the other one must be down. Balancing is also not 50-50, but balancing, this whole idea is about 100 and 100 over time. So in the same way, if you press 50-50 against in front of you, right, 50-50, instead of like going on a stalemate, allow it to go to one side, right? And then coming back to the other side. So if you allow this movement to go 100 on one side and then 100 on the other side, So in that sense, this dynamic balance is 100 and 100, but over time. So now I am 100% with you, right? Doing this session. In 3 hours time, I'll be 100% with my family, bringing them to the Lee Kuan Yew exhibition, right? So this 100 and 100 becomes a dynamic balance. So Joan says, thank you, Joan. You say it's a matter of more or less in certain situations. That's right. So that 100 in one situation, and then moving over time to another situation, going to the other polarity, going to the other opposite. Yeah, so you might think that, wow, it's easier said than done, right? I mean, it's 10 p.m. at night. I need to send out this report to my boss, right? Otherwise, there's repercussions. And then my daughter is wanting me to put her to sleep, right? To read a story. What do I do? Right? So that's a point of tension. Yeah, and then in that moment, just perhaps ask ourselves, can I spend 20 minutes, 100% with my daughter to read the storybook? Right? And if the answer is unfortunately no, I don't have 20 minutes, then just let it be. Spend 100% at work, right? And then do the best you can at the report. And then the next day, we can spend 100% with your family. So over time is 100 and 100 so that we can bring the wholeness of our lives to create this whole life, right? So this idea about 100 is not just about work and life balance. Really, it's really about bringing together two opposing ideas at the same time and be able to function. So just now you talk about I think in Ian's sharing, right, it's about a personal sense of purpose as well as an organization sense of purpose. It's about wanting to do good as well as achieve the bank's KPIs, right? So it's not a balance, it's not a compromise, but it's how can we bring the wholeness of doing good and achieving KPIs so that it creates something larger. Yeah, and so this is the idea of balance that we want to create so that we can expand our thinking. Yeah, and with that, in the learning map, there are other polarities. Things like strategy and execution both must come together for success. In a very simple way, my son is a sportsman, right? So he trains very hard, but it's not just training very hard. It's also resting as hard. So training hard and resting hard overall will give us performance, right? It's like, collaboration is really a combination of we give and we take, right? The giving and taking creates something larger, and that's collaboration. So this idea is something that I want to leave you to ponder about. Whenever you're stuck with an issue, think about how does this relate to the polarities? What polarities are you up against? And what's the opposite that you want to embrace? Okay, so with that, right, I want to go on to the last one about C, right? After we are clear about our anchor, right, and we have also expanded our thinking to embrace polarities, then the third thing that we need to do is to clear, right? Why is clearing important? Right, this whole idea about clearing, right, is, sometimes our world feels like this hurricane, right, this swirl wind. And in this swirl wind, how can we have the ability to be in the eye of the hurricane so that we have that clarity to be able to act, to be effective? Yeah, so in this, rather than to be in the automatic mode or the autopilot mode, to create space for clarity, for awareness, and for us to take choices so that we are not just being swayed. So there is a question here, right? How do you hold anchor to your values and purpose in the face of strong winds? This is figuratively speaking, that you want to, that would want to sway your values and cause you to question your identity. So I think this is in the moment of you, in that moment, that space that you create, in that clarity, coming back to your sense of purpose, coming back to what's important to you, coming back to our own thinking on what are the expanded solutions before we take action, right? So in this idea of clearing, I want to invite you to do an experiment. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not a meditation teacher, and I'm my background is in psychology, right? And psychologists love to do experiments. So I can invite you to try 3 rounds of experiment. And you may not be in a place where you can close your eyes and all that, and that's okay, right? So wherever you are, just sit comfortably. Okay. So I want to ask you, okay, round number 1, right? And maybe you can just reply onto the chat. Round number 1, can all of you breathe in and out? Can all of you breathe in and out? Can you just type yes if you can in the chat? Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you. All right, so we can all breathe in and out, right? I once asked the question. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Ta Hong. Thank you, Emmeline. Right, that helps Ian and I know that you guys are out there. Okay, very good. So I once asked somebody, how are you? And he said, I'm still breathing. So we take that as a good sign. Okay, so round number 2. I'd like to invite you to breathe in and out at the same time. Can you breathe in and out at the same time? No, right? Ivan says no. Thank you, Ivan. Yes. Yeah, we can't, and this is a very, very simple thing, right? Thank you, Chu Chong, Emmeline, and Nicole as well. It's a very simple thing. It's just a very simple thing that tells us that we cannot do two things at the same time, right? Okay, CJ, you have a joke there. Yes, if we fart. Okay, that's like if we expel, right? Okay, and thank you, Joan, as well. So we cannot breathe in and out at the same time, just like we cannot do 2 things at the same time, right? The idea is to be 100 at one time and 100 on the opposite polarity. So here, this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to just try it 5 times, okay? Just take deep breaths in and out. Take deep breaths in. As you breathe in, you feel the air going up to your nostril, right? Going up all the way to the top of your head. And as you exhale, you feel the air coming all the way out, right? Breathe in again, breathe and out. Take another 2 deep breaths, breathe in and out. Right, expelling all the carbon dioxide. Okay, take the last breath in and out. Okay, so in this 3rd round, what is created? Can you put it into the chat? What is created in yourself as you take in deep breaths in and out? In and out. What is created? Oh, thank you, CJ. A bit like a mindfulness exercise. Yes, a bit like it, But the idea here is that when we breathe in and out, there is a third thing that is created. And this 3rd thing is really about energy. Okay, wait, this 3rd thing is energy. So in being whole, we want to be able to go across different polarities and create something else that is more sustaining, more expansive, and more life-giving. And that's why wholeness is important, because it's that thirdness that is created. Okay, so in this, right, also like to hear from Ian, right? In your role as a leader, right? How do you feel that in the leader being whole creates the conditions for your team to be whole?
Yeah, so maybe let me answer it this way, right? I think first of all, for leaders to be whole, obviously, in my view, the clarity of my purpose is absolutely important. Because we're living in the world of business as unusual, and there'll be curveballs. And when curveballs come, I just have to pivot myself to think that it is just one of those things in life that I have to manage, right? But more importantly, let's not be overwhelmed by it, but come with a pathway to achieve the intervention. And I think when a leader is calm, okay, I think that is definitely very helpful for the people that you lead. So that's number one, right? Number two, I think I mentioned earlier on in the session that happiness and fulfillment is a personal choice. If you're like me, who decide that that is important and it's a decision that you want to make to that you want happiness and fulfillment in your life, then I think it's important to create the pathways for you to achieve situations of happiness and fulfillment. And accordingly, you can help your colleagues to do the same. Last but not least, dedication. Okay, there's no point having clarity of purpose and you can imagine what success looks like, but you do not dedicate the time and resources to achieve that. So be honest with yourself, be authentic to yourself, and decide for yourself what are the kind of commitments that you can put in place, the kind of resources that you're prepared to set aside for you to achieve those success, and work with your team members, okay, to also achieve that, like what I did with the 10x goal, which is to enable the creation of 1 million jobs across ASEAN. Maybe before I pass back to Wendy, I perhaps want to share you a little experience that I had last week. I don't know how many of you know Simon Sinek, one of the global thought leaders, leadership thought leaders. I have an opportunity, privilege to be in a fireside chat with him. And I asked him two pointed questions. Why did I ask these two pointed questions is because I think these are challenges that our people, our employees are facing today. And I wanted to hear from the guru, okay, on his take, right? The first question I asked was, how do leaders able to organize themselves so that they are able to rejuvenate the aging population, aging workforce, so that they can all deliver in a joyful manner and able to achieve the career legacy that they all very well deserved, right? And do it with pride, right? That's one question I asked him. Okay, the other question I asked him was the topic of AI, whereby a lot of us getting potentially nervous, anxious on how AI can impact our livelihoods, right? So I asked him, is there a change? Can there be a change of narrative on how we can help people who are concerned, right, to emerge stronger from this uncertainty that potentially can be caused by the evolution and the fast pace of AI that's gaining ground, you know, in the things that we do every single day. So Simon says, okay, very simply, that for the aging workforce, I think is the leaders have to be a lot more deliberate to really leverage on the strengths of our older colleagues, right? And empower them with trust so that they can truly perform. And in fact, if we empower them, the more often than not, they will be able to really step up and deliver way above our expectations. So the point here is that we leaders have to trust and we have to be courageous, right, for that to happen. So I encourage leaders to do that here. And I also encourage the older colleagues who are here to also figure out, you know, the kind of career legacy that you want to leave behind and figure out a way to rejuvenate yourself in these last 10, 15 years of your career journey so that you can retire on the high with a career legacy that you very well deserved, right? Now on AI, Simon.
1 minute to the end of the session.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'll pass it to you then. Yeah.
Just wrap. Say. I think maybe you can conclude on that.
Yeah. So on the AI, I think the idea is that yes, it will eliminate some jobs, but it will change more jobs, which means that there are still jobs, and new jobs will evolve as well, right? So rather than focusing in your mindset on the jobs that my job may be eliminated, focus on how the jobs will change and how new jobs will evolve. And then accordingly work yourselves to those areas of opportunities. With that, I pass over back to Wendy.
All right, thank you so much, Ian, for sharing your wisdom, your this very interesting conversation. So we are indeed in these like business unusual times, and in these times, we all play a very important role, and so that's why IBF has approved this whole person, whole leader, because this is a foundation. This whole idea about leaders being deliberate requires us to search within ourselves to get clarity. And that's what this work is about. If you want to achieve and strive despite stress and crazy workload, you want to be more productive and successful, and also support your team towards sustained performance, right? So you might want to find out more about this course to register. So there's a QR code for you to find out more. And then there's also a QR code for you to register your interest. And then we can just share more information with you. Andy, can you put up these links as well so that people can access this? Yeah. So to wrap up in today's session, these ideas about ABC, honestly, about wholeness, is not rocket science. It is from the critical data-driven lens, right? It's not like they are simple ideas, right? But they are also not new. But as we reflect back on our lives, for me, in the last 12 years, these subtle practices on wholeness has helped me in a foundation in my life. It's helped me to be the mother I want to be, to finish my PhD in 4 years, and also to triple my business, my organization through these COVID years. So I mean, I would just encourage all of you to look at wholeness from the perspective of how we can be an instrument, how we can be a trigger, a change maker to create more wholeness for ourselves, our team, and as well as our family. Right. So with that, I'd just like to thank you all very much. If anybody wants to ask any questions, we'll be around for a couple of minutes. And we'll also like to invite you to put your feedback, right? To give us your feedback to this session, right? We can also connect on LinkedIn. All right. So with this, I'll just end off with a last quote that wholeness is as easy as these ABCs, right? Anchoring, balancing, and clearing. Thank you, everybody. And can we also thank you to Ian for your sharing. Right. Thank you, Chu Chong. Right. And yes, to Ivan as well, Ta Hong, Ka Liang.
Yep. Thank you very much, Wendy and Ian. Thank you everybody for this engaging session and for participating. Really appreciate it. Please scan the QR codes if you want to give feedback to Flame Center or connect with Ian and Wendy. This marks the end of our session. We hope to see you soon. Till then, take care.
Stay blessed, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jinsen.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nicole, do we have a debrief thing? Do we hang around?
I will email you guys after this. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ian.
Bye. Bye, Wendy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good job. Good job. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.